is Margaret. I'm 76 years old, and every morning the same man proposes to me. Every morning I say, yes. That man is my husband, William. We've been together for 52 years, but to him I'm a stranger. A woman he falls in love with anew each day. When the morning sunlight seeps through the small window of our nursing home room, William slowly opens his eyes. He looks at me as if searching for a face half remembered, buried deep in the fog of his fading memories. There's always a careful curiosity in his gaze, like a child discovering something precious. "Excuse me, miss," he says softly. "Have we met before?" I smile. "Maybe a long time ago." He blushes slightly and asks, "Then, would you have dinner with me sometime?" That's how each day begins, with a question that breaks my heart and heals it at the same time. William has Alzheimer's. It started 5 years ago, quietly stealing pieces of the world he once knew. He forgets yesterday, yet somehow, every morning, he finds me again and falls in love again. People ask me, "Margaret, isn't it painful to relive the same thing every day?" And I tell them, no. I'm grateful, because every morning he chooses me again. Before the illness took him, William was the warmest man I'd ever known. I remember one winter in 1989. I was sick with the flu, bedridden for nearly 2 weeks. William took time off from the carpentry shop. Every morning at 6 before the sun rose, he'd make chicken soup from scratch, not from a can. He'd boil the bones for hours, add vegetables he'd chopped himself, season it just right. He'd bring it to me on a tray with a single daisy in a glass, even though it was the middle of winter and he had to drive to 3 different stores to find one. "Flowers help people heal faster," he'd say with that gentle smile. "It's scientific." It wasn't scientific, but it was William. When our daughter Susan was learning to ride a bike, she fell and scraped her knee badly. She was crying, saying she'd never try again. William sat down on the pavement beside her, rolled up his pant leg, and showed her an old scar on his shin. "You see this?" he said. "I got this when I was 7, learning to ride my brother's bike." I fell 9 times that day, but you know what? On the 10th try, I rode all the way down the street, and I felt like I was flying. Susan looked up at him, tears still on her cheeks. "Really?" "Really," he said. "Brave people aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who get back up." She got back on the bike, and he ran beside her, one hand barely touching the seat, until she found her balance. That was William. He made you believe you could do anything. Now, when I brew our morning coffee, the room fills with the smell of roasted beans and sunlight. He closes his eyes, breathes in deeply, and says, "This smell, it feels like home." I whisper, "Yes, William, this is your home." One morning, he looked at the ring on my finger and began to cry. "It's strange," he said. "I don't know why, but seeing this ring makes my heart ache." That evening, he kept touching his own finger and murmured, "I think I had a ring once. Where did it go?" His wedding band was right there, on his hand. In the spring of 1968, the day Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, the radio spoke only of sorrow and marches. William came home from the church workshop where he built wooden pews. The whole nation was in mourning. The streets were filled with anger and grief. That night he held my hand tightly and said, "The world may lose its mind, but we must never lose each other." Now he rarely remembers my name. Some mornings he calls me Miss. Other days he calls me Nurse. Last Thanksgiving he stood up from the dinner table and asked, "Excuse me, Where are my children? I think I had a daughter. Our daughter, Susan, was sitting right beside him. She quietly wiped away her tears and said, "I'm here, Dad." But William just nodded politely like a stranger. 3 months ago, something happened that I still can't talk about without crying. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was folding laundry in our room when William walked in from the hallway. He looked agitated, frightened even. He stared at me as if I were an intruder. "Who are you?" he said, his voice rising. "What are you doing in my room?" "Where's my wife?" I froze. "William, it's me. It's Margaret." "No," he said, shaking his head firmly. "No, you're not her. My Margaret has dark hair. She's young. You're not her." He backed away from me, looking terrified. A nurse heard the commotion and came to help. They had to take him to another room to calm him down. For 2 hours he refused to see me. When he finally came back, he looked at me with empty eyes and said, "I'm sorry, nurse." I was confused. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab his shoulders and shout, "I'm here. I've always been here." But instead I smiled and said, "That's all right. We all get confused sometimes." That night I cried in the bathroom where he couldn't hear me. I cried for the man who used to hold me and promise we'd never lose each other. I cried for the woman with dark hair he was still searching for, the woman I used to be. And yet every evening he looks at me again and says, "I feel like I've spent my whole life with you." I answer, "Maybe you have." Then with the same smile he had 50 years ago, he asks, "Will you marry me?" And I always say, "Yes, William, I will." A few days ago, he was looking through an old photo album. He pointed to our wedding picture and said, "This woman is beautiful. She looks so happy." "The man looks happy too," I said. He traced the photo gently with his fingers. "Yes. I wonder where they went." Sometimes when he's asleep, I hold his hand. It's still warm, the same hand that built our home, held our children, and shielded me through every storm. Once in a while, for just a fleeting second, his eyes clear and he truly sees me. Last month, just once, he whispered, "Margaret, even if I forget you, you'll still be somewhere in my heart." That was the last time he remembered me. Tomorrow morning, he won't remember again. But that's all right. Because love isn't made of memory. It's made of presence. And every morning when he asks me to marry him, I get to fall in love with him all over again too.